What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Monsters on the Loose, the monster show of all monster shows, from 1933's King Kong to 2021's Godzilla versus Kong. We are here to talk about monster movies, and what way to start off our episode 2 with one of the most iconic monster films ever made. And we are talking about Gremlins. I am joined, as always, by John from Mondo Chelloveck Movies. How are you doing today, John?
Hello, Jason. I'm doing all right. I'm glad to get this second episode on the go. Gremlins is a great sort of way to start off with a dedicated sort of monster or a monster theme to go with, rather than last episode was talking about all the things that led up to how we liked monsters in general. But this, I like the fact of picking a subject and going with it on this episode.
Yeah, I just think, I'm just going to bring this while I'm here. Just looking at my my stripe and thinking, just like,
brilliant.
Like how, it's iconic, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely iconic.
It's got a great look.
I think it's the ears as well. The ears are the big thing everyone remembers.
Yeah,
from Gremlins.
Oh no,
it's a bit of a head knocker. But I had a lot of fun rewatching Gremlins yesterday to prepare for this episode, and it's one of those films that continues to hold up after 38 years, whatever it's been now.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's amazing how many I watched it a lot when it came out in the 80s. Watched it a lot of times, and I kind of sort of haven't watched it for a while now. On reflection, when I look at the fact that when I watched it, it wasn't like watching a new film, but I remember there was a lot more to it than I thought, and there was some great things that I just had so much fun going back to. And to me, it does seem like an 80s movie, but it doesn't seem dated as well. It's I think anybody at this, if you showed somebody at it now who's 7 and 8, I think they would have more or less the same experience that we did when we watched it at that age as well.
Yeah, I watched it when I was 6, and it scared the life out of me. But that's I think that's something that people could be like, can understand. It's we're gonna get into more of the plot later, but I mean, the film does take a dark turn. Like we briefly mentioned it last episode as just a brief overview, but it does take this really horrific dark turn where this cute little furry mogwai. I like your t-shirt, John, by the way.
Yeah, had to wear it.
You're ready. You're all set for the occasion. It's crazy to think that when you consider the lore for the mogwais, they're these cute little kind of like Furby. Because I kind of feel like Furby ripped them off, but
definitely.
Yeah, these cute little furry animals, and if you feed them after midnight, they just become this horrific reptilian kind of monsters. I'm just, before we get into more in depth with this, I'm just going to go through the general information. So, Gremlins came out in 1984. It was directed by Joe Dante, produced by Michael Fennell. It was based on the Gremlin folklore, because I keep forgetting that there's already that kind of folklore about little creatures destroying, mechanical stuff and stuff like that. Obviously, I forget his name. What's the character's name? Shit. The dude who's talks about it in the film. I forgot his name. I'm a twat.
Anyway, the old guy.
Yeah, he gets. They take over his snowplow.
The snowplow, I can't remember his name, but yes, he was quite a kind of iconic man in that movie as well. I found.
Yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah, so you got that folklore, you got that Gremlin folklore in there, which is based on. It stars Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Polly Holiday, and Francis Lee McCain. Music was by Jerry Goldsmith, legend.
The music is brilliant on it.
Oh yeah, great music. Cinematography by John Horror, edited by Tina Hirsch, produced by Warner Brothers and Amblin Entertainment, distributed by Warner Brothers. It was made on a budget of $11 million, and it made $212.9 million.
Yeah,
So we can say that it was a bona fide success.
massively.
And we did hint on last episode that we spoke about how it inspired a whole treasure trove of other little monster movies.
Yeah,
that I'm sure we'll get to down the line. But yeah, Gremlins, man, like there's something heartwarming and also terrifying about this film. Rewatching it, where it starts off with obviously Ram Peltzer, the inventor. That's one of my favorite parts of the film is his inventions all going wrong. I love it. It's so fucking silly.
Yeah, I know.
Him looking for like a present. This Chinese boy takes him down to his grandpa's shop. And it's all like old antique Chinese, ancient like Chinese kind of ornaments and trinkets and all that. And he finds the Mogwai and he goes, "I want him." The old man's like, "No, he's not. Mogwai is not for sale." I bet that was really racist. I do apologize. Yeah, so basically the old man's like, "I can't sell him. It's too much responsibility." The little boy's like, "Yeah, just take him. I want $200. Give me that money, man." So he takes him off. And that's when it's kind of this weird kind of foreboding beginning bit where it's just like tells him about the rules. So you got to keep them away from light, especially sunlight, because they'll die.
Yeah.
Don't get them wet. We know why now, but at the beginning, if you only saw that film for the first time, you're like, why can't you get them wet? You'll find out. And don't feed them after midnight, which is the most ridiculous rule, but that I think is hilarious because Gremlins 2 kind of took the piss right out of that rule.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
there's a lot of like it's almost its own plot hole, but people forget, just suspend their disbelief.
I think the best thing about them rules is because it tells you don't do this, but it never tells you why. And you're left thinking, as you said, that you think, right, it's going to come. They're going to break all them rules, but you don't actually know what to expect. Something bad's got. Something's going to happen. But when you see sort of Gizmo, you think he's so cute. If you don't know about anything else, you think, well, what can you would never, as a young person, you would never think of the way it was going to go.
It makes me think as well. Was there a prior Gremlin incident where this Chinese family knows what will happen, so they're like, don't do these things. There's got to be a previous experience with the Gremlins for them to know that these rules have to be abided by, right?
Well, I thought, and this might be just me thinking that, how there was a book by Roald Dahl called The Gremlins, and it was all about these reptilian beasts getting inside planes in the World War II. Now, maybe, and this could be just me thinking about it, how in Japan or China, in World War II, maybe gremlins were involved in that and they caused mayhem, and maybe this is because that was how it was portrayed in this book, and that's how it actually it got into sort of like modern. Everybody knows about. Oh, I've got this TV and it's not working. There's probably some gremlins in it. It's like widely. Everyone says it even before this movie came out. You knew about it. So
there was even a Disney film called The Gremlins, right? But I'm guessing it was based off of that Roald Dahl book.
I think so, and it's just I'm thinking that if you're saying that if there's anything that's happened before, maybe there was some kind of really bad thing in China in the war that happened, or these things have been kind of known about, and maybe it was explained that they're kept, owned by this old fella who maybe has this responsibility of looking after this one Mogwai, knowing full well if it got in the wrong hands, it would be carnage. It's just a thought.
Yeah, and I've always thought about like how, like I always find it weird that Gizmo is the only good one. I just think it's a bit strange. Like he seems like a really, 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 really good-hearted parent that has all bastard children, because all his children they're all bastards, right? Because even when he gets wet in the film, and it's just like they go, "Oh look, what's the matter?" Because he's all like sad, like, "Oh, fucking, I'm a parent now. Great, look at these bastards I've fucking gave them birth to." So yeah, I reckon, I think just me being just talking bullshit. Like I just feel like, no matter how good-hearted your Mogwai is, they're all going to have bastard children. So it makes me wonder, if you've got a bastard Mogwai, will it give birth to good Mogwais? Does it reverse psychology there? Does it work?
Well, doesn't Stripe, he has kids, doesn't he? Because he jumps in the pool.
Oh yeah, and they're all
So
bastards.
he produces this spawn of like the most unruly
Yeah.
children you could ever met. I mean, they're all like naughty kids, aren't they? And they do everything bad you can think of. But I think Stripe is the one who does all the real nasty things. He wants to really kill people, whereas the other ones are just more like really like naughty kids.
Yeah. I guess it could be like, this film is almost like a PSA about having children. Like, bring your children up right, or they're going to be a bunch of gremlins.
Could be.
Don't let your kid be a gremlin, people.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of people had kids who act like gremlins.
Yeah. Oh, we should change this podcast to Children on the Loose at this point. But yeah, anyway, moving on. The film does cut to like the most Christmassy opening ever. Just like Christmas. I'm just like, brings me to my first point, right? Gremlins. Is it a Christmas movie, John? Give us the answer.
Well, in my eyes, it is a Christmas movie because it takes place completely in the snow. Christmas, and also it's got a lot of it's got some sort of classic Christmas things, because the lady in it, the old lady, she's basically like Scrooge.
Yeah, sure.
And she's like the town Scrooge. She hates kids. She hates everything about Christmas. She doesn't like anything nice. She just really wants. She's got that horrible attitude, which is straight out of like the Grinch, Scrooge.
Yeah.
So she's like a sort of like a stereotypical, but a classic villain for this movie. So for me, that elevates it, and you've got your Die Hard that's always got the snow in it, and you think, is it a Christmas movie? Well, it is proved a Christmas movie now. But I do think with having that element in it, it makes me think it's a Christmas movie straight away.
Yeah, and the thing is, I always get people that try to deny that it's a Christmas movie and going like, you wouldn't watch, you wouldn't watch the Santa Claus in July, would you? I'm just like, it depends on my mood. Like, like I watch horror films all year, but not just for Halloween. So why does a Christmas movie have to be just for Christmas? My mum starts watching Christmas films in like October because she likes she enjoys the build up to Christmas. So she'll watch them like October, and I'll go to her. It's too early, but that's me just being a bastard. So I've just like contradicted my own point. But anyway, you get my point. Like, anyone, it's a film. You can put it on whenever you want. And I think Gremlins is a Christmas movie. It's always a part of my Christmas lineup at Christmas.
But would you consider some Christmas movies I would only watch at Christmas, like It's a Wonderful Life, etc. But movies that have like the element like Die Hard and Gremlins, I can watch them any time of year. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't think of them watching them only at Christmas. So I think it is a Christmas movie, but it breaks the mold in a way because you can throw it on any time. I mean, we watched it now in the middle of summer, and it's blazing sun out there, and you didn't feel it was out of place or anything.
No, I still really had a good time with it. I mean, if my mum walked in, if my mum walked into the room and was like me, just like with it playing and she's going Christmas, she might go, it's a bit early, isn't it? Maybe, but see, my mum doesn't think Gremlins is a Christmas movie because she just doesn't. She goes, it's not Christmassy. Because obviously, and not even, I bring my mum up because I live with her, but like a lot of people, in a lot of people's minds, it's got to be like happy and Christmassy and wholesome. But I think I love Gremlins because it's not that, and it's still sort of is a Christmas film. I don't.
Yeah, it's got like so. I know you're saying about the fact that all Christmas movies in essence have to be sort of upbeat and jolly to a certain extent, and like a big message in it, and everything ends nicely. And this film goes into a really dark, halfway through it goes into this dark thing. So maybe if it was maybe less violent and less gory, it might not really sort of come into this where we're thinking, is it Christmas, is it not Christmas, because of this element that it's got in the movie. because it does sort of like it. I mean, the fact that the lady who we're talking about, she gets shot out the window, which was, when I watched it again, I didn't realize how funny that whole scene was. The fact of how fast she was going up that
I think that's very unrealistic for that stairlift to do that. I don't think that stairlift could do that personally. But
no, it couldn't because of those safety aspects. But wow, it's so funny.
I've just thought about something because you said about gremlins mess things up. Maybe gremlins have got this power to make things do that they're not meant to do. Hence why people say about putting gremlins in your machinery to mess it up. So maybe
it's if you get something and it's like, say if you have a video tape recorder and it doesn't work that well, but if it goes and does something really mad, like blows up, sets on fire, or does something crazy, you would say, oh, there's gremlins in there. It's as if when you get the next step, something breaking, you think it's the gremlins, not just the normal breakage.
Yeah, the wonderful thing about Gremlins as a film, though, it's very meta because you've got this inventor, but all his machines are going wrong. So it's even goes further into our Gremlins myth, where it's like all his inventions don't work, but yet now they've got gremlins. So it's like, oh, I see, clever.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. The fact that it's kind of like a double whammy, isn't it? The fact that he's inventing this stuff which doesn't work, and it's preposterous the things he's got, and he's kind of like a gremlin in a way, because it's just everything he would give to somebody would always break. Nothing would work.
There's that one bit where he's at the gas station. He's just like, "I can see you're a smoker, sir." I think his catchphrase is awesome. Where he's pitched is like, "I'm Brown Peltzer. Fantastic ideas for a fantastic world. I make the illogical logical. Maybe they're illogical for a reason, Ram. Maybe they are." But yeah, he goes like, "I give you the smokeless ashtray." When he's leaving we're leaving there. The guy's got the ashtray to smoke everywhere. It doesn't work.
No, it's so good. That whole aspect of the film is great, because as everything that he's working on, he brings out, it's not going to work, and you think, how do you even think that's going to be a thing that's going to be good? The
only invention that actually works in that movie is the time machine in the background when he's on the phone. Because one shot it's there, one shot it's gone. They're like, oh, where's it gone?
Yeah, because it might have just shot off into its journey. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. There is some really, really cool, subtle things in the background that on this second watch, like I knew about the time machine thing before, but there's little subtleties in the background of frames that I only noticed on this rewatch yesterday. So, for example, the mum, when she stabs that gremlin in the kitchen, so she stabs it. He's sort of, I guess it's dead, but there's a shot in this background where it makes me feel like it's still alive. But she turns around and puts the other one in the microwave. As she turns around to face the other one, in the background you can see the other gremlin like squirming on the counter. I didn't know. I've never noticed it before until yesterday.
All right,
it's weird, but it's clever. It's clever detail. It's clever subtlety details there.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, when you think about it, at that point, I think microwaves were kind of just coming out, and food processors, they weren't really a thing that many people had. And when you knew the microwave was there and you didn't know what would happen, it was like kind of a bit of like a cheering moment. I know it was at the cinema, when you know that the microwave was looked at and you thought, oh, this is going to be brilliant, because you thought, it's mad to think that microwaves are just nothing now, but it was quite a big thing in the early 80s to have a microwave anywhere and have something cooked out of a microwave, which sounds mad now, but yeah, it was a big part of that experience to see one of them going in a microwave, especially.
Yeah, but like my whole point was like the actual behind the frame where she stabbed that gremlin.
Yeah,
you still can see the gremlin on the counter squirming because she just stabbed it. I've never noticed it. Like, it's just behind her. You can see it behind her when she's standing there. And I'm like, never noticed that before. They took the time to put another animatronic gremlin in the background, or it's a puppet, I don't know, but make him kind of like go. So it makes me wonder: is he really dead? Is it really dead? Because they're kind of genderless, aren't they?
Yeah. So, I was going to say, Gizmo, is he male or female? Because he reproduces, but then again, some animals can be like non-sexual and reproduce as well.
Yeah. Asexual. The thing that I'm always wondering, like, we're jumping around, but just whatever. It's all about talking about gremlins. The one thing I find weird is that the mogwais, they are, I would say, they're predominantly mammals, right? Because they've got fur, so they're mammals in theory, right? It's weird. They're mammals that metamorphosize into reptilian creatures. So they change. They're no longer mammals. They become reptilian, which is kind of strange. It's kind of a weird thing because, an insect that does that, goes through that metamorphosis, is still an insect afterwards. It doesn't change what it is. Whereas this mogwai changes into something completely different. The only thing that really retains in its design is the ears.
Yeah.
But I think it's clever. I think it's a clever way of taking something cute and cuddly and making it look horrifically scary as hell.
It is, because, like I say, when you were first watching that film, you would never know that would be the outcome. I think it's such a good, it's kind of like a kind of, you have these like endings in movies which are like, so you didn't see it coming, and they're just great endings. It's a bit like that, because you're going into the film, cute animal, there's something going to happen you don't know, and when they change into these sort of reptilian psychopaths, you don't see it coming. So it's a great way to sort of do that, and you don't get any heads up with it.
And one thing I've kind of like formulated in my mind during a rewatch is these mogwai that are birthed from Gizmo getting wet. I feel like they're self-aware to the point they know what will happen when they eat after midnight. So that's why they sever the clock's power.
Oh yeah.
To trick Billy into feeding them after midnight, because I feel like they know what will happen.
Oh yes,
it's strange. It's like almost they're self-aware of their own maturity. So because maybe the gremlin transformation is them going from babies to being full maturity, but to trigger that maturity, they've got to eat after midnight, which again I will reiterate is a stupid rule, because all around the clock is after midnight until you get to midnight again, right? In theory, but
the total time frame of what is the after midnight is a bit mad, because after midnight becomes the next day, and then you're not going. Then you've got to go at midnight the next one. So really, if they're at like say a second after midnight for that 1 second, they would have. But it doesn't. When you think about it, it can't really. I know we're talking about something fantastical anyway, but it's a quite. If you unpicked it, it doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't. But like even in the film, they're nagging Billy for food, and he's just like, "Why don't you guys shut up for a change? I've already fed you." So that proves that they've eaten before and not changed.
Oh yeah, but they are definitely wanting to have that food because they know what they're gonna do. As if Gizmo refuses the food as well.
Yeah.
So he or she knows I'm not getting into all that.
Yeah, like Gizmo, he knows what will happen, right? But that's the weird thing, is like if all these other mogwais are little terrors, little bastards, why is I've always asked this ever since I was a kid watching these films, why is Gizmo the only good one? I don't understand it. I don't get it. Like,
I know,
because you'd have thought, he's literally less than 1% of the race is just good. Like 0.00, just like zeros galore until you get 0.1. You know what I mean? Like it makes my brain hurt, because I'm just like, you would have thought if a race of creatures like the gremlins are vicious and nasty, that's their, because there's animals in the real world that are all, don't go near this thing because it's wildly aggressive and wildly territorial and all this. It's generally just hostile all the time. So you'd have thought if these gremlins are hostile to everything all the time, you'd have thought they all be hostile. I
know, and I've always thought, like, Gizmo, how old is Gizmo? Is Gizmo, because he looks like a small, cute, freshly born thing, but he might be centuries old. You just don't know, do you?
So do you think, like, with that bit of nugget there, you don't know how old he is. He could be thousands of years old, like you said, right, or hundreds of years old.
It
Is
could
it
be. And I mean,
possible?
the old fellow who looks after him, has he looked after him since he was a boy? And does he have to? Has he got it off somebody else with this whole thing to say, "Do not"?
Has it been a generational kind of
It
like?
could be, and it's his sort of one to pass on to his next, the next person. But maybe, especially with that young lad, he hasn't found the right person yet.
And that makes me wonder. Like, we're getting really into we're getting into like deeper than I ever thought we would for Gremlins with this podcast.
I know,
but I love it because I love the whole lore of this film.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the lore is fascinating, right?
That's
what
to be honest, though,
as well.
when we're going in, we're talking about monsters in general, and we're talking about this sort of particular lore that is involved with Gremlins. There's not really another film like it that sort of has this sort of folklore attached to it in this way. And like I say, you can go into a lot of things to do with Godzilla and all the other ones and why they are the way they are. But the Gremlins one is quite unique, isn't it? And there's a lot more to it than just the three rules. And because when you look in the three rules, it takes you down a few alleyways that you just don't seem to end.
Yeah, which brings me to like a point where you're talking about Gizmo could be hundreds of years old. Makes me wonder, has Gizmo been domesticated? Right. So if he's been in possession of this Chinese family for generations, he might have started off as this mischievous, vicious little bastard. But as he's grown along with this family, he's learned compassion. He's been domesticated. Even at the end of the film, the old man goes, "You teach him to watch television." Right? He tells him that. So that tells me that Gizmo had never watched TV, but now he knows what a TV is, and now he watches TV. So that tells me that Gizmo is smart enough to learn things.
Oh yeah.
So it's possible that Gizmo could have learned compassion, learned to be good, right? In theory. So we might have cracked the case right there. He could be domesticated to the point where he's good now.
So he's like Stripe, but actually just he's like Stripe when if you got a hold of Stripe and says, right, I'm going to make you see sense and put you on the straight and narrow. And that's where he's going to end up, like a new Gizmo. Because
that's the thing. Remember, the Gremlins are like a day old. They're literally like babies, essentially.
Well, they are. So maybe Gizmo is what Stripe would be if he grew up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, he dies a horrible death, but you know.
He does.
Yeah.
It's quite a scary death as well, actually. The animatronic, when he's sort of melting and he's bubbling with that. That's not something you see in most kiddie films.
There's obviously there's that final jump scare at the end where the skeleton jumps out of the little whatever fountain thing.
Fountain, yes.
Always gets me though, bastards. Always gets me.
It's a good one. Very good.
Always gets me. I don't know why it would be screaming if it's just a skeleton though. That always made me a bit weird because he always jumps out and screams. I was like, why are you screaming? You're a skeleton. Skeletons don't scream. I'm nitpicking now. I need to shut up.
We'd have to sit down with the producers and the directors and the writers and say, right, explain this to us. They probably don't. I would imagine when you're writing all this stuff down, you think it's really good. But when you get somebody getting into it, you can pick loads of holes into the whole affair. When they probably have thought, I didn't think of that.
But I think you know, I can pick holes in things because I love it. I don't love picking holes in things. I love what I'm talking about. Like I love Gremlins. So like the fact that we're getting so deep into the you know nooks and crannies of all these different ideas that Gremlins presents in the film, and I think we've gone deeper than everybody else has. Like the idea that Gizmo's been domesticated for 100 years. Who would have thought that, right? That's why he's good.
Yeah,
you've heard it here first on Monsters on the Loose.
Exclusive.
Please subscribe and like. Yeah, so we've brushed across a lot of my talking points already. I'm just gonna throw out a question to you, John. Do you have like a favorite part of the film, like a part that you always look forward to rewatching again, or is it just mostly the whole film is a joy to you?
I think for me, I really like the experiments with the gadgets when they go wrong. I like them to
Yeah.
go wrong. I like the fact that he's really trying his best and it never goes right. You know that they're all going to go right. And I do like the sort of first reveal of Gizmo when you and I like the voice behind him, the fella who I forgot his name now, but he actually did the voice.
Howard Mandel, what's his
Yeah, and he
name?
was in a TV
Howard.
show for years. I think it was some kind of American TV series. I didn't even notice him. And obviously, he doesn't talk like that in real life. So I thought,
Yeah,
oh
can you
wow,
imagine?
it was yeah, but it was a really mad thing to think that this bloke did this voice for this whole this character. But for me, the best part of it is the fact of when you get them the pods that they're going to explode from or come out of, and then it
Yeah,
starts to take that dark turn, and then you get all the sort of carnage that comes after it, and you get all the sort of the darker side of it, and you get the things that were, well, obviously knowing now that they wanted to put a lot more of the violence and gore into it. They wanted it to be a much more kind of like horrific horror story, basically. And it does go into a horror story element halfway through, but in a kind of sort of kids version of a horror movie. But
yeah,
that's my favorite part of the whole thing, when you get that turn in sort of shift, and you think, right, this is when I'm going to get the fun.
and if you notice, well, before, we're talking about it being a Christmas movie earlier, but like from what I really noticed it by watching it a second time round yesterday, rewatching it, is that when you get to that turn halfway through, literally nearly all the Christmas elements disappear.
Yeah, it's not really talked about apart from the Santa story.
Oh yeah, which I understand is meant to be this like really kind of like ironically funny kind of dry humor kind of bit that the producers begged Joe Dante to remove, but he was like, "No, I'm not removing it. It's staying in the film."
Yeah,
It's always a bit that I always want to skip. I just don't care about that.
really.
I don't think it's particularly funny. It's just there. I feel it's so just there and out of place for me. I'm
I,
like,
I think I
I
think
can,
it's quite a unique thing to put that monologue in a kids film. I think it is funny,
it's
because I
bleak
would
as hell.
imagine kids going, I did, you know what the, because usually you would say in a kids movie, say, oh, me dad got stuck in the chimney, but we got him out, he's all right, and everything was good, but he could have died in there. But in this one, he literally died. He was stinking the house out, and they realised he'd fell down, broke his neck with all the toys, and they watched him getting pulled out of the chimney, and I thought, that's pretty dark, that, mind.
It's bleak, but like
Yeah,
the thing is though, like that's like I think obviously like earlier on she kind of hints that she doesn't like Christmas, she doesn't celebrate
yeah,
Christmas, and she gets angry when when Billy's joking like, oh yeah, everybody loves Christmas, what's going on? And she's like,
hmm
whatever, she's like the thing she talks about in that earlier conversation is like she tells him like, oh, the high suicide rate is at Christmas, and he's like, oh, thanks. Thanks for that. Like, now I'm depressed kind of thing. So I think I understand that it was like it's kind of a funny way of her explaining why she's miserable, but
yeah,
you understand why she's miserable. But I don't know, the way they present it is a bit strange.
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Even as a kid, I was just like, I always feel like skipping that whole
All
scene
right,
because I just
yeah.
like I just want I at the time I wanted more gremlin carnage, like. But now,
It is a slow part of the movie when you've got that sort of mayhem. It does stop it, so I can
yeah, it's
understand for
not,
pacing if they wanted to take
yeah,
it out.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I understand as an adult, like its significance. But even as an adult, I'm pretty much like they could have done without that scene.
hmm
Personally, as just my own personal taste, they could
oh yeah,
done without it personally. But I do like jumping to Gremlins 2 just a little seconds. They do kind of like do a nod to that moment at the end of the Gremlins 2, which she goes, "Oh, don't talk about Abe Lincoln. Oh, I had a horrible." She's apparently she's got all these horrible memories as a child about different things,
all right,
and they have to cut her off because she's like, "No,
all right. That's good,
yeah."
actually. That's good. I forgot all
They
about
do
that.
they do a little nods to
Yeah,
that original Santa Claus scene from the first film. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like that particular scene is pretty dark. But
Yeah.
like, I just think it could done without it. Like, you know.
When I watched it actually on this watch, I did get a flavour. I know Spielberg was involved in it to a certain extent. If you didn't know, if you just put this on and said to somebody, "This is a Steven Spielberg film," it plays a lot out like a Steven Spielberg film for me. It's got elements that are very, very Spielberg-esque. Although Joe Dante takes the because he's got like that sort of darkness about him, which he does in some of his other films as well. He's got that kind of like borderline horror sort of fascination, but
Yeah,
it does have a sort of Spielberg feel to it.
yeah, I do get that as well. But like, I'm a bit confused on why Steven Spielberg's even got his name on it, because he's not listed, he's not credited anywhere. It just says Steven Spielberg presents Gremlins.
I think it's
So,
done with his studio, Amblin Entertainment. I
oh
think they
right,
sort of
yeah,
had
okay.
the,
Oh yeah,
and
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
think to me, I don't know what sort of part he played in it. And it's the same with Back to the Future. It's very much of the film Zemeckis made. I'm not saying anything about it. It's just got that sort of bit of a sort of Spielberg feel to it, And I did feel when I was watching it, although I knew that Spielberg didn't have that much to do with it, I had this feeling, I thought maybe it had more to do with it than I originally thought on this rewatch.
But maybe I think I think it might be a pacing thing, because I think all the films I've seen with that Spielberg has done himself, he's very good at pacing a film,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think Gremlins has got very, very good pacing, except for
Yeah.
that one scene where I could feel like, you could cut that out and you haven't missed anything personally.
Yeah.
But I think it's very well paced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that first act, the first half of the film, obviously you're waiting for that flip. You're waiting for that dark flip to happen. When you hear about the rules, even that first part before the bad shit happens, I think that is still an entertaining first half. Like, it doesn't
Oh yeah.
drag at all. It doesn't lull. It's still interesting. I like where he takes the Mogwai to his like teacher. He's like is
Yeah.
he like a science teacher? I don't know what he is.
I think so. Yeah.
I recognize that actor from something else, but I can't think of what else he's been in.
I know he was in a film called Crime Wave, which is a Sam Raimi film from 1985. He plays a great part in that. In fact, it's going to be too hard to explain this whole thing he was in, but he gets killed when he's having a shave. So he's got like half his face has got like the shaving foam on it, and he's like squashed on somebody's windscreen. This fella gets knocked into, and his face is like laughing on this thing. It's hard to explain it. It sounds a bit mad, but I just can't. When I see this film with him in it, I can't not think about that scene. But the thing I loved about the teacher was the fact they found him underneath a sort of desk with a hypodermic in his arse. And I thought that was brilliant. That like just to kind of get it there.
That whole sequence, that tells me that the Mogwai or the Gremlins, they remember. So obviously he gives that Mogwai a blood test, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he's trying to lure him out as a Gremlin, going, "Oh yeah, I got a candy bar. You're not still mad about that blood test, are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yes, he is. He's totally mad at you." And that's the significance of him having the needle in his ass, because basically, thing is, you never know what he's injected him with. What's he injected him with? The guy's dead, so what did the Gremlin do to him? Like, you don't know, do you?
God knows. It's just so funny that they just killed him with a hypodermic. Like I say, you don't know what it was all about, but I thought it was a great way to sort of kill him. Probably the best way, actually.
Yeah.
Quite disrespectful in a way, I found. And I do think that the Gremlins are disrespectful in most of the things that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I kind of like formulate in my brain. Obviously, like the Gremlins, they treat Gizmo like shit, don't they?
Oh yeah.
I feel like they're almost resent him almost, right? Because in both movies, they treat him like he's like just this. They don't like him at all, do they?
No.
So I'm wondering what it is. Like, are they just like ungrateful children that hate their parents? I don't understand. Like,
well, I think he's like, in essence, he's like goody two shoes, isn't he? He's like all that's good about things, and they're just not. And I think if you've got some kind of maybe siblings or just a family in general who've got like a good person in there, or the people who aren't good don't like that person and they're ganging up on him. So I think it's just because he's so nice, and they're sort of the opposite of that. Or maybe they don't want to, like you were saying before, maybe they don't want to be sort of turned back into him at a later date if they grow up and somebody says to them, right, and puts them on the straight line, which you're talking about with Gizmo. Is he being like that in the past? And he is the kind of the grown-up end result of this whole Mogwai experience. And are they resentful of him because they know what they could be if they are kind of got a hold of and got out of their ways?
Yeah, mate, it makes me wonder, like, could a actual reptilian, when a gremlin becomes a gremlin, can a gremlin be domesticated? I don't think it can.
Maybe if it was got away from all its other sort of other, because it must be all siblings, the whole lot. They've all got related to each other. So if they are got into that sort of way where they can somebody get them by themselves, because where was Gizmo? How did Gizmo become Gizmo? How was he just nice forever? And how has come there's only one sort of good guy in the whole thing? Yeah,
that's what I've been saying all along. I don't. It's very strange. But yeah, it's funny because even like what was my point? I've lost my. I was fucking taking my point now. Bollocks. Stripe is looking at me. He's going. This is going. I know. I've completely lost where I was going now. I've lost my point completely.
One eternity later.
So we know that we know that the gremlins remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like the fact that like Stripe kind of he starts to learn who Billy is, and at the end he's like Billy,
and
stuff like that. And it's quite crazy to think like the gremlins can operate regular human machinery. Like you can wield a chainsaw, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know what's more frightening, a gremlin or a gremlin with a chainsaw. I think a gremlin with a chainsaw is pretty frightening.
Well, I think that was a great thing to put in it, and apparently it was supposed to be because it's sort of like a homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, it's just I mean, not that any kids are going to get that from that, but it's just so mad that Joe Dante wanted all this stuff put in here as a sort of really because obviously he's nearly making a horror film, for want of a better words, his mind. And although he's got to kind of take it down a peg or two, but he's thrown all these mad things in, which is just, if you brought a film out these days and you let it slip to say, oh, by the way, I've got this kids movie coming out and there's a homage in there to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it would be instantly pulled from anything, wouldn't it? You wouldn't see the light of day. So I like the fact in back in the day, you could put these things out. And even the thing about the stair lift, putting somebody in a stair lift and shooting them out of a window and then seeing them lying sort of like more or less face down on the ground. I don't think them things play out, especially not in kids' movie, because you've got to put this in the kids' movie bracket of what you can see in it. And I don't think nowadays those things are like kind of allowed in kids' films.
Yeah. I have some questions regarding the rules, because obviously the rules are that to make those rules work properly with the gremlins, you got to stretch quite far with them. So, for example, I don't know whether it's just like maybe it just didn't really pass by when they were making the film. This is me nitpicking. Bear in mind, just bear this in mind. So you can just shoot me down if you want, but it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So in the bar, the whole the great bar scene with the music and the like that, when they're just causing chaos, and you got is it Kate, the character's name? Phoebe Cates' character, is it Kate?
Yes.
Yeah, and when she's trying to serve them, you see the gremlins drinking beer, but yet they're not multiplying.
I know, because you would think like moisture in any form would make them. So maybe if it's ingested, it doesn't, because it's usually it's on the back, isn't it? When you see it splattered on the back, that's when they sort of go. So maybe that's. But I know what you're saying. There's a load of things you could every rule they do, you can almost fault it in every bit of the film. You can say, well, that doesn't make sense because they just told me don't do this, but they're doing it.
It's like the whole bright light thing. Like, I understand the bright light thing. Like, if it's too light, they don't like it. It hurts them. But that's with everyone. Like, if I shone a bright flashlight in your face, you won't like it, will you? No, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I don't like, if light is such a big deterrent for these things, why have eyes? Because your eyes need light to see. So I just right there, you're contradicting yourself based on the design of it and the rule. The only thing that makes sense is sunlight killing them. That's a cool thing, I think, because it means that they only can thrive at nighttime or inside a building.
Yeah,
that they're away from light. But it does. I do feel there's a lot of issue. Like there's a I just think there's just they just seem to be very easily killable things. If you want to kill them, just make sure there's a bunch of lights everywhere and you've got all the windows open at daytime. They're dead then.
You just take a torch with you or a flashlight. Yeah, I know. It's but I think it's obviously they had to think of a way how to get rid of these things at the end of it, because you would say, well, how are we going to kill something that really what would you do with it? Because there's that many of them. But the thing is, though, Gizmo's always kept in the box as well. Yeah. So maybe that's a way of thinking. They're trying to, that bloke, the old guy, must be doing everything he can think of to make sure that this animal doesn't reproduce. And maybe that's the responsibility he's got, to carry this box around with him all the time.
Yeah, but like, why have the animal at all? Why not just like kill the animal? Then you haven't got the issue completely. The problem's solved.
Yeah, but if you look at Gizmo, the last thing you're going to do is think we want to kill him. It's going to be too hard. Maybe he's had the gun to his head a few times and thought, I can't do this.
I can imagine that old Chinese man with a fucking shotgun going like, you've brought me too many problems. Oh, God.
Yeah, you could. I think we've sort of probably got another, we've created another couple of sequels to this movie, or prequels even. People who want to make sequels, the prequels should just listen to this feed, and they've got like 1,000 little stories they could put into it. Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, I just think it's weird that Gizmo, if he's like so old, like, obviously we don't know how old he is, but like, he looks like a child, but he could be about like 1,000 years old, right? You'd have thought, he would age like any living thing would, right?
Yeah.
So I think that theory is out the window because he still looks like a baby.
He does, but then again, he doesn't look like the babies in this from him. Even when they were small, when they come out in the shoebox sort of thing, when they're all sleeping together.
Yeah.
They didn't look like him, did they? You could tell that they didn't look that nice. They had this sort of like horrible. They weren't cute at all, were they? Everything that came from Gizmo. So
yeah.
I don't know. I would love to know that. That's probably the biggest question I'm asking myself now. How old is Gizmo? I mean, there's got to be some fan theories on this.
Do you believe that the Mogwai and, in essence, the Gremlin are aliens? Are an alien? Maybe the Chinese discovered and crashed UFO, and the Mogwais were on it.
Actually, that would be because we're thinking about where on earth could this come from? If you were thinking if it was a real thing, then maybe the only explanation it could be is to come from outer space, because really, and then again, they've got like such a amazing knowledge in technical stuff, like mechanical stuff. Maybe they're just natural, because obviously they've flown here in a spaceship, so they know how to build a spaceship, something we don't know how to do. So maybe they've got this sort of like inbuilt skill to be super technological when they've came from space, and that's how they've got this sort of side of them. But yeah, it's a good theory.
Another thing as well is like these creatures, they're so mischievous, and they seem to work together as well.
Oh yeah,
because you know where he's gone to get the chicken to feed them after midnight, but he doesn't know. You see Stripe get them all going, all like they're plotting something, right?
Yeah,
they're whispering to each other. You see that scene, so it makes me feel like they know what they're doing. And also, how did no one notice them string up the dog outside. How did no one see this happen? I don't buy it personally.
Yeah, they must have done it in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah,
It's so quick to think that they've done that. Yeah, I know. There's loads. To be honest, it's maybe when you're a kid you don't even think about these things and you just take everything as read. But as an adult, you think, hang on a minute, there's a lot of this doesn't make sense. You know, and even in the fact that these creatures to do that, it was kind of physically impossible for them to do that in that speed of time.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's a funny thing. The more you get into this film, the more you kind of led into it, aren't you? In a way that I think when we started the stream, we wouldn't have thought we'd been going into these sort of avenues.
But like, I still love it though. I don't believe there's like, you know, I sometimes I do say, oh yeah, this film's perfect, or this film perfect, but I think I'm saying that in more of a super what's the word? Superfluous way, I suppose, because no film is perfect really. But I think some of my favorite films all have flaws in them. Like, I don't think my favorite films are like
they do
perfect. But I still think the Gremlins are fairly easy to deal with, though. Like, gonna get to my last point. Billy's mum is a badass. She kicks fucking ass in that movie. Like, all she needs is a knife. All you need is a knife, a microwave, and a blender. You're sorted. You're done. You know, just have some cookie mix in the blender to lure them into the blender, and turn it on. they're dead. You know, stab one on the counter, stab it, get out of my kitchen. One of my favorite moments. Get out of my kitchen. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that the fact that she uses sort of these like fairly normal household equipment to kill all these animals in this sort of like barbaric way is a really good play on it, because the fact that she is the mum, she should be just not really involved in anything like that. And then she's finding all these ways, and as if she's kind of enjoying it actually towards the end when she's putting them in the blender, the microwave. It's as if she's getting a bit manic with it.
It's also an inverse of what the gremlin is. The gremlin folklore is the gremlin messes up machinery, but this is the mum using machinery to fuck up the gremlin. If it makes sense. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's kind of a good way of giving them a just desserts by killing with machines.
Yeah, there's so much, like I mentioned this before, there's so much in this film, so many little nods to the folklore of gremlins.
Yeah,
it's all over this movie. Be it the Peltzer inventions that always break down, not working, to using the microwave and the blender to kill the gremlins.
Yeah,
stuff like that. It's really clever in that regard.
Yeah, you can sort of see these full circles coming around, and it's great that they actually did. You see, with the mechanical stuff, they're getting killed with the mechanical stuff. The mother, who's supposed to be this sort of, just a mother, she's probably the most sort of gung ho in the whole film. She's much more gung ho than any man in the film. Yeah. And there's all these sort of juxtapositions going on that you don't really realize at the time. But I mean, we've studied this film the last time we've watched it. We've kind of watched it with a view to sort of review it. So you're going to be looking into it deeper than most people just sitting back and letting it come to them. But I do feel that you're right in saying there's a lot more to this than it's just a little kiddies monster movie. It's a lot more than that, actually.
And the Mr. Fudderman, that's his name, Mr. Fudderman, the old man who talks about like he hates foreign machines. He wants like American, and how like you shouldn't buy foreign stuff. They put gremlins in your machinery, and then he obviously like when they take over his snow plays, like there's a gremlin in my cab. Like it's really that scene in particular scared the life out of me as a kid.
Yeah,
it's just there when you see them like driving it, they're all like really manic and laughing. I'm just like, it used to scare the life out of me as a kid.
Yeah, I think I saw it when I was I must have been about 15 or 16 when I saw it, so I was kind of past that. But if I was younger, I would have known it would have been a different thing for me. I thought it was more of a comedy, but I was really surprised at how dark it was. I think all my friends said it when it came out, you were saying, "I got to see this film," and you said it's just a kiddies movie, because when you get to a certain age, like 16, 17, you think, "I'm not going to watch a kids movie. I'm done with that."
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a kids movie, because we got a lot of fun out of this. As soon as we had a tape out of the video library and watched it. I didn't watch it at the cinema first. I went back and watched it a couple of years later at the cinema. I think that we all had a good time with it, because we knew how sort of dark it was. It kind of it satisfied us as being people who were like not kids but not adults.
Yeah. There's some really horrible bits in that film as well. Like I always wince when you get shot with a crossbow in the arm. But don't cut away from that. It looks like the arrow goes right in his arm. You're like, oh, that's got to hurt. That's got to hurt so bad.
Yeah.
You know, there's some really painful bits in that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It has got a lot of stuff that you wouldn't imagine to be in a kids film.
Yeah, when Billy discovers his science teacher or whatever, he goes to grab the phone and it scratches his hand when he goes to grab the phone.
Yeah,
that used to always get me as a kid as well.
Yeah, and you couldn't see what the sort of stripe would become. You could only see his hand, and then he would like scuttle away down the he went into the air vent, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was there, and you could hear him cackling, but he didn't know. He knew he's different, but he didn't know exactly what he was going to be like, which was quite good to keep us not the reveal not straight away. When he opened the cupboard, didn't he? He was in there. And you jump.
Yeah. I'm gonna just bring this up, and then we can start wrapping the podcast up, because I know you've got to go soon. So, there's one bit of this film where I'm just like, I swear it's just like there would have been an infinite loop to the point where it just would keep going, but they don't go that route because they can't. It's a movie. When Stripe jumps into that swimming pool, and you see him go down, and it starts bubbling up. In theory, if I'm basing my theory on what the movie has told me, they multiply in water. So if he's giving birth to these gremlins in water, that means each gremlin he gives birth to is also giving birth, and the cycle. So it's literally, that scene should be ad nauseum, ad infinitum.
Yeah.
Infinite gremlins.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yes. The fact they're all going to get wet, and then they're all going to reproduce, then they're all going to get wet. And it's like,
infinite cycle.
Yeah.
Like infinite. But they don't.
Yeah. Imagine that. That's a good thing for Gremlins 3.
Anyway, I think we can bring that to an end, John. I think it's been a really, really. I've
enjoyed this. It's funny because when you think about how it's going to go, I didn't expect it to go this way. I've enjoyed it. The fact that we've kind of went really in a deep dive into its the whole meaning behind this movie and plot holes and twists.
I'm glad we didn't just go by a play-by-play, because that's what I thought we were going to do, but we've gone more kind of deeper into like the ideas and kind of concepts, which is really fun. That's what I love about this movie. Like I said, like with a lot of these monster movies, it's all about the concept, because if the concept fails, the movie fails, in my opinion. So I think Gremlins is one of the better high concept monster movies out there. But like you said, the whole idea of the Mogwai into a gremlin and the whole rules, like you said, there's not anything like that. I'm hoping it will always be a mystery, because it should stay a mystery.
Yeah. If you think about it, if this got like made now and it was a big blockbuster, and obviously you wanted to do a massive amount of things with it, the fact there was only one sequel to it is quite amazing as well. But they would have probably done this prequel stuff, and then they would have probably done it to death, and it would have made it been preposterous. The fact is that we are kind of thinking what could have happened, how Mogwai could have been, where they're from, all this type of thing. It's never explained. You're probably never going to find out. And in a way, it's great we can talk about this, but there's no definitive answer. So we're not wrong saying what we're saying, because nobody knows what's right. I quite like that, because I think sometimes these days there seems to be that many prequels, sequels, spin-offs that there's nothing left to the imagination anymore. Everything's explained.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, if you think about this, like it took them what? It took them 6 years to get a sequel out.
Yeah.
And they only got that sequel because basically Joe Dante demanded full creative control.
Yeah.
And they gave him literally like $50 million to go mad.
Mhm.
And he went completely mad. Like those Gremlins and Gremlins 2, they couldn't be more different if they tried. Like they're so separate, not just by the time they came out, but obviously by their tone, by what you know, what they're trying to say in the film. They're so different. They're different ends of the spectrum. But I'm of the opinion that Gremlins 2 is a far superior movie, personally.
I do need to rewatch that. I used to watch it all the time, actually. And to be honest, when I look back on it, I think I watched Gremlins 2 more than Gremlins 1 on reflection. But it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I do need to get them again and give them a good... I might go and see if I can get it off Sky Movies, Gremlins 2.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get to Gremlins 2 on this show at some point.
Yeah.
But as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. John, thanks for joining me as always.
No problem, sir.
It's been a great little episode. Be sure to subscribe to John over at Mondo Chelloveck Movies. And obviously give this video a like. Subscribe to my channel if you feel like you like to subscribe to my channel. But yeah, what's on the next episode, John? What are we talking about next episode? I've forgotten.
Well, I believe we're going to talk about Godzilla 2014.
Oh, yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun one. I've rewatched that recently, so that's quite fresh in my mind.
Well, I'm going to rewatch it quite soon as well. So, yeah.
Watch it on 4K. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I've got the 4K.
Yeah. So, everybody, next episode will be Godzilla 2014. Look forward to that one. Let us know in the comments below what you think about Gremlins and what it's done for you growing up. If you watched it when you were younger or you grew up and you discovered it. Let us know whatever your opinions are. Let us know down below. As always, this has been Monsters on the Loose, the monster show of all monster shows. Take care, everyone. And remember, don't be monster food. See you later.
This alpha predator of yours, Doctor. Do you really think he has a chance?
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around. Let them fight.